Right. Welcome to our beautiful presentation on writing and critical inquiry. Basically, our reflections on it and what we learned from it, what we wrote about, and how we think we can improve on it if we were to ever do this again. So I'm going to go first on talking about writing and I said intellectualizing or critical inquiry. So I'm going to go in like kind of point mode and kind of explain each kind of point here. So the first point here is learning about research. Research is super important, and I learned a lot about it because here it gives you a sense of understanding your topic. You're writing your argumentative essay on it, and it can also offer really valid counterpoints that can help strengthen your paper overall. So if you have a paper on saying why soda is delicious, somebody could say, well, soda's bad for you, so I can't find it delicious or satisfying to drink. And so if you include that in your argument, it'll help you show how diversified your whole paper is, and it can make it even stronger. So I learned about researching in that light, and it helped me really see how I can improve on argumentative papers. Another thing that I learned about was typing and outlining. So outlines are super important, like Matt was saying, because they help you kind of understand the organization of your paper. And so you can kind of like think, all right, right here I'm going to have my introduction, my thesis statement. Right here I'm going to start talking about why soda is delicious. Right here I'm going to offer the counterpoints why people think it's not delicious, and this, that. It also helped me to learn to kind of type faster and kind of expand my thoughts a little bit more, which we'll go into a little bit more later. But it helped me understand like language to use. So I had to use a thesaurus a few times to understand like words to use, and even reading some of the articles while I was writing my paper helped me get more words to use and kind of collect my thoughts a little bit better. Thesis statements are also super important because it's probably the most important it's the most important sentence in the essay because it tells you what you're going to be talking about and kind of shows like what you're trying to prove. Conclusions are also very important because it helps you re-summarize what you've kind of learned and what you already talked about. So it recollects your thoughts a little bit and puts it in a nice, solid paragraph, and yeah. So this whole paper to do helped me kind of think more about beauty and that, which we'll go on later, but I kind of think I like to boil it down as far as it can go. So I ask myself like, why, how, why does this do that, why does that do that? And it helps me kind of really boil it down and gets me a good sense of why things happen in our world and why we might even be able to consider things beautiful. So it helped me think a lot. You know, our conversations of beauty in our class helped me talk to my family more about like what they thought about it. It was a very good conversations I had. I had a conversation with my mom about subjectivity, and I had a conversation with my brother on why do we see things beautiful, because he went to college for psychology. And so it was pretty interesting conversations. And I think beauty can be seen in absolutely everything after writing this argumentative essay, because mathematics makes up everything. And so if we're even made up of mathematics and matter and particles, then we can see other things that are made of mathematics and particles as beautiful through our senses. And I think we're going to go on to the next slide now.
Alright guys, so I didn't write about it, but I was just looking at beauty in sports, and I read an article on it, and it said that beauty, like if you make a play, everything that you do in sports, like if you're playing basketball, you either have a shot or you can pass. It's whatever you make in that moment, that quick reflex that you use to show what you like, to improve your game and improve the game that's actually happening then. I also had a quote in that article. It said, work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So like if you're just going to practice, you're just doing the motion, you're just going through the motion, you're not really having any effort, and you have really good talent, and you just don't really try, you're not going to really get a starting spot on that team. Or if you do it in life too, it just happens to do with life. In my essay, I had to organize a lot. I mean, I'm really bad at organizing, personally. I mean, I don't know how many of you are bad at organizing, but I'm pretty bad. I'm not So this essay I started writing outlines, and personally I think outlines are a very good tool to improve you and your writing skills. I also, instead of just shoving my papers in my backpack like I did last year, I started using folders and binders throughout the year, and it's progressing myself. Like I know where everything is. I'm not stressing out. I'm not freaking out that my papers are at home and I have the right classes for the right folders. I've also improved using MLA format this year. Last year in Shaker, we used MLA format, but we didn't really really go into it like this year. Like we would have to cite stuff and like that, and what we did this year, like I didn't have to do a works cited last year. It was very new to me, but I think I worked on it really well, and I think I improved myself throughout the year. My academic argument was acne versus self-acceptance. So when you look at somebody and you notice they have acne, your first thought might be like they're not clean, they're not beautiful. But that's actually the wrong example, because when you're a teenager, I don't know how many of you experience acne, but there's like most people when they're in their teens experience acne, and it's just hormones. It's not that you don't take showers, you're not clean. It's just it's just the oils, and you just gotta get through it. I also wrote about in my academic argument that acne is what is it? Was I'm blanking. That it was that like the blackheads, my bad. The blackheads on your face, they're just there. I also learned about Ansel Adams this year through a document. This wasn't actually in my academic argument. I actually just looked on it after my academic argument. I wish I did it, but I didn't. And it was a photo of what Cam was looking at, the moon. And I thought that was very cool. I mean, I didn't really think it was Star Wars, but I did after Cam said it. I was like, okay, maybe it does look like Star Wars a little bit. And I just think it's beautiful because I've always had a thing for photography, and I just I thought it was really cool. I already talked about effort and tying into sports. I also learned this year that reading. I've had a thing for reading, but I didn't really read last year or any year before that, and I'm starting to read now, and I think it's improving my speech. And I recently bought a book. It's called Big Life Journal. It's about growth mindset and fixed mindsets. So if you have a growth mindset, you're more likely to have a positive feel for everything. You have positive vibes. And if you have a fixed mindset, you're more negative. You're just thinking of how bad yourself is, but really what you want to go for is a growth mindset throughout life.
All right. So, as I think I kind of hinted at earlier in the topic, if I didn't just say it directly, is I did my paper on mathematical beauty, and I argued that mathematics is both beautiful and makes what we perceive as beautiful, if that makes sense. So, to kind of explain like how I think about things, I think like, why does something happen? How does that happen? And how far down can I boil this down to help me understand more about this? So that's one of the reasons I chose mathematics, because if you try to boil anything down in our universe, it'll all kind of boil down to math, which is the foundation of the universe, and particles. So I thought this was a really like even beautiful thing to like just think about. So why, how, and what? I think everything, like I just said, all boils down to math. I think that math can also build like symmetries. Well, it does. I don't think that. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Math builds symmetries.
Oh man. Got it.
Don't worry, I will cut this out. You'll be fine.
I'm not gonna hit percent.
math in the universe, which is the foundation, has symmetry. So when we look at galaxies, or we look at like snail shells, or we look at any kind of form of pattern symmetry, and we see it as beautiful, math is always behind it. Math is always behind what we see as beautiful. So if we see symmetrical things, so even in the people's faces, the more it kind of lines up to the Fibonacci sequence, the more beautiful we're going to find it. So there was a beautiful photo that I saw on one of the research things I was reading, and it showed a person's face, and it showed the Fibonacci sequence, which kind of spiraled down. And the more the face kind of lined up with the Fibonacci sequence, the more beautiful the person was when they were taking a survey. So it was pretty interesting to see that math has symmetry in it, and so it makes things beautiful. Another part of the essay that I also really like to focus on is how math itself can be seen as beautiful. So when you lay out a theory or an equation, people can look at it and say, that theory, that's pretty interesting, that's pretty beautiful, because of either what it does or how it looks. So if you have a very small equation, some people will think, oh, it's very small, very simple, straight to the point, I see it as beautiful. A lot of people are like, that doesn't really mean anything though, it's not beautiful. But if they see something that kind of lines up with everything else, so e to the I pi plus 1 equals 0. That's very interesting because it's like 5 or 6 of the most common mathematical terms can all be used in one equation to equal itself. And so I think that that's very interesting. That in itself can be very beautiful. So symmetries, beauty in mathematics, and then visual aesthetics of the equation. So if the equation looks kind of formal, it's nice and condensed. So like when you finish working on a math problem on your math test, it'll be a nice solid like 2-number answer. It'll be like 23. And then you know, oh man, it's gotta be right because usually it's in decimals, but now it's 23, it's right. And so, yeah, simplicity and visual aesthetics is a very big factor in mathematical beauty. So math itself doesn't only create what we perceive as beautiful, but it also can be in itself beautiful. And so, yeah, let's look at our blog. You want to pull it up for us?
Mm-hmm. I just might take a minute. But we gotta find Chrome. Sit down. Don't have my phone. I think we're doing it on my phone. Do you have it on yours? No. Oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah.
Ignore the URL. That's
Yeah,
not important.
it's not. Yeah, I was fooling around.
It's not an important URL.
I don't know. Can you draw?
Yes, I do because I have it signed.
Okay, it might take a minute.
Google Chrome.
All right. So this is our blog. Oh, my bad. So this is my topic on beauty and sports, and there was a quote in there somewhere. This is your blog. If you want to talk, do you want to talk about it? No. Okay.
I know that.
This is also your post. You know.
No.
So you don't want to talk about anything?
Chatting at the dinner table was pretty interesting because, like I was saying earlier, I talked with my parents a lot about this because our conversations in class really inspired me to kind of think more about beauty and how we can see it in the world, and also help me understand how others thought about it and how we can all have different points of view on whether or not beauty is subjective or objective. And so talking to my parents and like siblings about it kind of helped me get a better sense of like the people around me and how they felt about what makes things beautiful, why are things beautiful, and why do we think that specific things can be beautiful while others aren't. So that's kind of what this whole thing is about, and yeah.
Writing and organizing.
No.
And that's our blog.
You guys have any questions? Can both of you guys give me your argument? What did you guys use for your academic argument?
I did acne versus self-acceptance.
Okay, so in a statement form, what were you arguing about it?
Oh, that beauty is it could be acne, and that when people look at people that have acne, that they think that they're not beautiful, but they really are.
So people who have acne are beautiful.
Mhm.
That was your argument.
Yeah.
People who have acne are beautiful. Okay.
Mathematics is beauty.
Mathematics is beauty. Is it beautiful?
Yes, but it also is beauty because it's what makes things beautiful.
So you can't have. Would you even say that? Would you go so far as to say you can't have beauty without mathematics?
Without mathematics, you can't really have a universe. So you can't have something to be beautiful.
Ooh, that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, you guys, any questions you have for them? I want to know your number one thing that each of you guys have grown on, and I also am curious as to how you guys would define critical inquiry. 2 questions for you.
Can I go first?
Either one?
I define critical inquiry as kind of thinking. So, like intellectualizing is a word I use in the PowerPoint.
What do you mean by that?
It helps you to kind of think more and kind of understand like why you're thinking like that, and kind of helps you, because the more you think, the more you can kind of, I don't know, learn. And so like thinking is like, oh, I want to learn more about this, and you research it, then you learn more and just become a kind of a more cultured person overall.
What does it mean to be cultured really fast, too?
Yeah, that was a bad word.
It's not a bad word, I just want to know what you mean by it.
It helps you kind of understand more. So if you're ever like in like a conversation about it, you like clearly know what you're talking about, and yeah.
To be informed.
Can you repeat that question? I didn't really catch it.
2 things. First part of the question is I want you to tell me your academic argument,
Mhm.
and then the other part was I want to know what you learned about what does it mean for critical inquiry.
So I didn't really know what that word meant last year. Last year I didn't really do school. And this year I'm starting to take it more serious. And what I think critical inquiry is that I don't really.
You can think about that one for a
Yeah,
minute.
can
Do
I
you want to
think
share
about
what your
that
argument is first?
Hmm?
What was your argument first?
That.
You already
for
did
my
that
paper.
part.
Yeah, we already did that.
You already
part.
did that part. Did you do your part?
Yeah.
Drew? Okay.
Mhm.
So then, yeah, I want you to think about that for just a minute. Any other questions? I'm gonna have you pause the video.